first got to New York after college. I certainly remember driving over the Sky Highway and seeing the view of New York City out in the distance and thinking, that city's mine, you know? And you have to think that way, you have to.
I wasn't intimidated by the size of the city. I was fascinated by how fast the pace of life was.
It was access to everything in the world that you possibly want.
The city just had so much diversity, it had so many people, it was loud, it was cramped.
And then to think that I'm one person out of all those people. How am I ever gonna succeed in this place?
How do you start? Where do you? There's so much going on.
Suddenly, you have the freedom to do anything. You have no money, and you're in the greatest city in the world. So I remember feeling confused.
The feeling of it wasn't as magical as I thought it would be. It was not, today is the first day of the rest of your life. Because I had $275 in my pocket. I didn't have a plan. If I had an Emerald City moment, and if I had a wow, then immediately I went into, great, now what do I do? Now what do I do? Now what do I do? I needed to get a job because I needed to pay for my rent.
Walking into your first New York apartment, if I walked into it now, I'd be like, I lived here? But it was amazing because we were, you know, fresh and young, 22 years old, like just graduated, had all these dreams.
That's how you're supposed to start in New York. Happy and blind to absolutely everything around you.
It's weird, even though I grew up on Long Island, had a knowledge of New York City, I also had this kind of ignorance about it that I think it really does help sometimes. These days, kids are coming out of programs, they've got showcases, a lot of them come to New York with agents, and that's all amazing. You start a few steps ahead, but you do have a sense of like really what is expected, and I didn't have a sense. The first job I got was as a waiter, because it's like I have to have at least some money to, you know, pay for my life.
And not only that, not only getting to work financially, so not only be a waiter every afternoon shift, every night shift, but then wake up in the morning and be that guy in ballet class, whether I liked it or not. And be that guy in tap class, whether I liked it or not, because everybody else knew the basics. They knew how to tap, they knew how to do. What did I know?
You have to have a real discipline. There's a lot of talented people in New York.
I think when you're first starting out, at least from my point of view, you're so much not a part of the scene. You're just viewing it. You know, you're not in it as much as you want to pretend that you're in the theater. You're not.
Show business. It's interesting because it is both words. It is a business and it is a show.
When you come up in in college, you're thinking, well, how can I interpret this script, It's like, yeah, that's great. But it's a business. It's not just art, And you and the guy selling those funny sunglasses and the Statue of Liberty hat, you're in the same business. You're trying to attract people to see your product.
Theater Development Fund is a performing arts service organization. We're known as TDF. We are committed to building audiences for the performing arts for theater and dance. In 1972, the industry was worried about the health and well-being of Times Square. It wasn't a place that people wanted to go. People were frightened of it, and therefore they weren't going to the theater. So they had the idea of starting a half-price ticket booth in the middle of Times Square. And for TDF, it was on mission because it was a way of getting people to go to the theater at a price they could afford. So when we were approached about running the booth, we said, sure. Broadway is a huge economic driver in the city of New York. Tourism is a huge part of what keeps us going. And so I think one of the ways to look at the TKTS booth is it is a central piece of the Broadway industry. When you think about Broadway, you're thinking about a Broadway performance and you're thinking about the people on stage because that's what you see. And maybe you think about the ushers. Maybe you think a little further about the person in the box office. There's a wardrobe person, there's the person running the soundboard, there's the person running the light board, there's the musician in the pit. It's a hugely expensive undertaking. And everyone who works on Broadway understands that one of the things the booth does is it keeps shows running. The booth sells between 12 and 15% of the tickets for Broadway every year. When you look at that booth and you look at those red steps, it's part of this industry that we call Broadway.
The casting director is like the casting designer. We collaborate with the director and the writer to find the right people to tell the story. So can you imagine being the actor who walks into sometimes 20 people clumped behind a table waiting for you to do your audition? So you have the director, choreographer, assistant director, musical director, assistant musical director, 6 or 8 producers. So just getting there, just getting into that room that day, I always think that should always give an actor tremendous confidence, because for a new musical, 300 or 400 people may have been seen. And then a cast can be 10 people, 20 people. The process of getting to that final day, I think it's comparable to saying if you are a great swimmer, the odds of you being on the Olympic swimming team. You know, we're talking about Broadway. And so if you have a Broadway dream, yes, you might have a long road to Broadway. And I think the more actors, young actors coming to New York, can think about their careers as that, as a something that's going to stretch over, hopefully, decades. Yes, of course, the success of being in a Broadway show, being in a feature film, whatever it is, of course, that's the ultimate goal in some ways. But I think the more they can think about it as the ultimate goal is the career itself, is, you know, that continuum of being an artist, growing as an artist.
Welcome to the group. I appreciate you guys coming. We are a group of people that are trying to figure out how to network, how to get out there, how to get their faces out there. You know, what we usually do to start this is we just kind of, go around and maybe bring in, if there's something that you think has been helping you, we share that. Megan, what you been doing?
So I graduated in the spring and I've been auditioning like crazy.
What's it like trying to get seen?
It's hard. It's really hard. I mean, I have to go to these auditions now at 5:15 in the morning, and I'm usually number 75 at 5:15. It's
on
definitely
a waiting list.
On an unofficial list.
Right.
Yeah. It's just so hard because you have to wait around there all morning because you never know what's going to happen with the list.
So you can't just sign up and then go home?
No, I usually have to wait around just to make sure. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a long day just to get your 3 minutes.
It really is.
If I was a casting director, the guy that's getting up in the morning and wants it is gonna do that.
Yeah, I understand that. This is the survival of the fittest. The ones that will get up at 3:30.
It's the Hunger Games.
The thing that I've talked with these guys about is how to break in, how to get yourself noticed.
For me, I think it's more about you proving to yourself that you're eager and that you have the endurance to go through and do this stuff, because it is not easy and you will never stop auditioning.
When do you think you're auditioning really well?
I've learned that there is this level of like, I always want it. I always want to do well, but I find that when I put a lot of pressure on myself to do an audition, to get a job, I need this job. I really want this role. I need the insurance weeks. I need this. I haven't worked in 2 years. There's something like subconscious that you bring into the room, and whether you say it or not, somebody in the room is going to feel it, or something. They're going to smell the desperation in the hallway before you even get in there. You can't control the outcome of an audition. You can only control what you do in the room.
I always try to think a couple things. Is one, like, hey, you can relax now. Your job's over. You found the person. You're not going to have to worry anymore. That mindset. And also, I try to remember, too, that they're thinking, this may be a person I'm going to have to work with for the next 8 weeks. what sort of persona do they give off? Are they amicable? Are they, do they have an attitude? Are they withheld? I mean, so, as a human being too, how do you relate to the people behind the table?
They've asked you to be in the room. I didn't sign up on a list and beg to be there. They have asked me to be in the room. They want me to be there. So why should I apologize for being there or just be, thank you so much for being in the room? I think it's the confidence thing. I think if you're prepared and you know what it is and you know who you are, or you're figuring it out, you're at least trying it. Because, when you're younger, you don't always know. But if you can do that, then I think you can walk into the room and do anything.
On my 5th audition for Spider-Man for an understudy, swing, I sang my song, and then Julie said, okay, can you sing it again with a Jamaican dialect? And I said, which side of the island? And she goes, no, I was making a joke. I thought she was joking, but she said, no, I had Jamaican dialect. And then the music supervisor said, and sing it like Tom Waits, only real slow. I had brought in this song which had kind of a southern bent called Baby I Love Your Biscuits. So to do that like Tom Waits with a Jamaican dialect, and I think that's what got me the job. They were wanting to see, can someone, roll with something.
Yeah. We're speaking to it as we've worked, but I'm sure if either just about ready to graduate or have graduated, moms and dads and whatever, and everybody's saying, so why are you not working right now? And have you experienced that? I mean,
yeah.
Just so that we can
Why aren't you on Broadway?
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Oh
what?
my God.
Wait, what?
Yes.
It's like, why aren't you doing anything right now?
Movies fail.
It's like,
Yeah.
why aren't you in a movie?
Like, why are you doing something? Why are you in a show right now? I want you to be in a show. It's like, trying.
Did I ever work on Broadway as a performer? No. I auditioned, but I was never cast in a Broadway show.
So how's that feel?
Well, it was a bummer. I mean, it was, to come here and to want to be in a Broadway show and to not ever get cast in a Broadway show felt like a failure. To work on Broadway, in my mind back then, and in all of our minds, I think, it meant total success. To get a show on Broadway meant total success. But I got over it. I mean, I did a few national tours and I loved that. I was in my, 30s and I thought, well, God, what will I do? I saw the competition was, getting younger and younger, and I needed to do something else, but I really, really wanted to stay within the theater. I was offered an opportunity to stage manage just kind of out of the blue. So I just went for it. From there, I was offered an opportunity to sub on Fosse on Broadway. And I thought, well, perfect. Let me, see what this is like. And it was a huge, huge challenge. All these years, I've learned so much stage managing. And right now, I live in New York, I work on Broadway, I commute to work, I get paid, I'm doing something I love, I'm still in the community, that I love so much, I'm still with all the people, my people. What could be better?